You've been listening to the True Idaho News Podcast. Unfiltered news and opinion for the citizens of Idaho. Get more True News by visiting trueidahonews.com. If you'd like to support this podcast, visit trueidahonews.com/support. Thanks for listening.
Good morning, everyone. Shane Class here with True Idaho News. I have Greg Pruett here from Idaho's Second Amendment Alliance and many others. How are you doing this morning, Greg?
I'm good, man. It's a beautiful morning out. It's not 100 degrees yet, but it'll get there shortly.
Apologize to everybody for that false start. If you happen to see that, for some reason, my program was kicking out that we were interviewing Hilber Nelson. That was last week, and it just had the same stuff in there. So we had to do a little false start, kick it back off again so that everybody realizes that we actually have Greg Pruett on here this morning. So my apologies to everyone for that. So, Greg, before we kick into all of the excitement that you experienced last week, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you've done a lot more than Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. You've been at this, I guess, for what, about 15 years?
Yeah, I got started in 2012, August 2012, and it's just been kind of a roller coaster ever since. You know, at that time, I wasn't, kind of doing full blown, everyday politics. I was running that Second Amendment Alliance. I got a family. I was going to Boise State University full time, and I was working out in Gowan Field because I was still in the military at the time. And so, then I was like, I'm not busy enough, honey. By the way, I'm going to go start this gun group because Idaho doesn't have constitutional carry. And the more I looked into it and tried to figure out why we didn't, I didn't want to be part of a national organization. I wanted Idaho to have its own Idaho-based gun group. And that was it, man. That's all she wrote in terms of going down this path to where, we look back and I got married well before I started a political group, and my wife always jokes. She goes, if I had known you were going to start this stuff, but no, she loves it. It's really a family affair for us. We are always working together late at night. The kids get involved in stuffing envelopes and knocking doors and all that kind of stuff. So that's who I am, man. Just a regular guy who got sick and tired of Republicans going on the campaign trail saying they were pro Second Amendment, and then yet Idaho was not a constitutional carry state, and something didn't quite add up to me. And back then I was one of those Republicans are good and Democrats are bad. And now I'm like, most of them just suck, from either party. It doesn't matter. And so, here we are. It just really devoted my life to trying to serve the people of Idaho. A lot of people don't know this about me. I don't even know if you know this. I have a master's degree in safety and occupational health. Okay. I got that from Columbia Southern University. I got my bachelor's in criminal justice from BSU. And I could be doing a lot of work that pays like 10 times more that I make in this world, and deal with way less stress and way less threats and vile personal attacks and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, after serving my country and going overseas and all that fun stuff, I said, I got to serve the people of Idaho, and that's what I do. So
you never do stop serving, especially when you go into the military like that. You come back and you just keep serving. But we appreciate that. So you've also got Idaho Dispatch. And then you co-host Freedom Bros podcast. And so this is your full time. This is what you do.
Yeah. I wasn't busy enough doing the gun rights stuff. And I was like, hey, honey, guess what? The mainstream media sucks in Idaho. So, and nobody else is doing this right at the time. This was 2020. And I think it was March of 2020. And some of my friends were like, oh, we think that there's something coming. And I waited and I waited and I waited. And I said, nobody else is going to do this. So guess what? I'm going to start a news organization to give Idahoans some news that is not the far left mainstream liberal press that we have here in Idaho, which is honestly worse than most blue states in comparison. And so I said, screw it, I'll do it myself. And that's what you'll find in politics is there's very few people that have the skills, or, and I'm not saying I'm super skillful, but or have the drive to just pick something up like that and run with it, right? And to just go out and just do it. You don't sit there and whine and complain on social media or in front of your TV or whatever. Hey, you know what? The news media sucks. We all complain about that, right? How many of us have complained about that watching this? And I just said, screw that. I'm going to go fix it. Like, what good does it do to sit here and complain about it if I don't try to do something about it? And so that's just kind of always the mentality I've had with stuff. And so, yeah, I get involved in all sorts of projects and start, because I'm always trying to find ways to help. I'm always trying ways to find and fix things that are wrong. And then I realized, man, there's only 24 hours in a day. I'm exhausted all the time. I don't ever feel rested because I'm just up all the time trying to find ways to help. So,
I think it just must be something that God stuck in folks like us, because I could just say ditto and put Shane Talks Politics when I started that back around 2020 and everything that you said. I mean, you notice there's a problem. And you have this innate, people don't understand. You just have this innate desire inside of you. It's not even a desire. Sometimes it's you don't want to do it, but you just know you have to do it. It's this drive that you just have to go fix and get in the middle of it and get your hands dirty. And it comes with its share of rewards, and it comes with its share of challenges as well.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I mean, there's very few people. Having done this for a really long time now, I've seen a lot of people come and go. I think I've almost outlived, at least politically, most of the activists that I've known that have jumped into the sphere, because it is brutal. It's hard on your marriage a lot of times because of the stress. You got to deal with lawsuits from total nutcases. I've been through that. You're just constantly attacked and maligned and all this stuff and whatever. I mean, that's politics, right? That's what we signed up for. But it doesn't make it fun.
No,
you're still a human being. You're still going, is this really worth it? And for me, honestly, when I tell people, when I travel around, I talk to people, I do speeches and rallies and teach classes about politics. I say, look, there's lots of days where I don't want to do it anymore. Like, I want to be done. I want to just quit, not because I don't love the work, but because it is such a drain on you, both emotionally and spiritually and physically. And at the end of the day, I always come back to, if I die, I don't want to stand before God and he's just like, you gave up? Like, that was it? Boo hoo. Suck it up. You should have sucked it up and dry. Like, I don't want that regret, and at the end of the day, it's almost like the Braveheart scene, his famous speech from Braveheart, and he says, lying in your beds, many years from now, are you going to tell your kids like, hey, I stood up and fought, or I quit and gave up? And so, I keep going. I'll keep going for as long as I feel that I can keep going. So,
some of the folks that have been watching me here with True Idaho News, since I took that over from Daniel, have already heard this story. But God took me away from it for a little bit, and it was because I needed to get my heart right with Him. And you talk about being able to weather the storms and being able to do that. You really truly need to put on the whole armor of God when you go into this, or it'll just beat you up, or it'll go to your head. And in my case, it went to my head a little bit, and I needed to go get my heart right. And and then God told me here a while back, He said, Shane, it's time for you to go get back in the war. And and I was like, oh no. And I had to go tell Rhonda, I said, I'm being told I need to get back in the war. And she goes, well, I was wondering when you're finally going to do that. So having the right woman really does help.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of the battles and all of the bumps and bruises and the things that come along with it, you just got in the middle of it this last week, and I know you were trying to stay out of this garbage with these two activists up out of northern Idaho, but they kind of drug you in, I would say, kicking and screaming from what I noticed. Talk a little bit about that, so that bring people up to speed with kind of what happened, and then what made you decide that you needed to speak out and talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so I'm trying to think of the quickest and fastest way to kind of break this down for everyone. Okay, I've been attacked a lot. Like, it doesn't really bother me. It's again, it's politics. What's interesting is, so I come from a camp where there's two camps for me for politics that you can follow when you're involved. One is access, we call it access-based politics. The other is confrontational politics. Also widely misunderstood. Nobody really actually understands what confrontational politics means. They think about leftists and burning stuff down. That's not what it means. In fact, I'm not going to get into this book too much. This is written by the guy. I don't know if you can see that. It's called Confrontational Politics. This is where the term actually comes from. Former state senator in California who helped start Gun Owners of America. The whole concept of confrontational politics was that politicians lie to you. I don't know if you guys knew that. I'm sure you did, but politicians lie to you.
Say it ain't so.
He, right. And what he said was, hey, look, it's okay as a Christian to say, hey, look, Senator, you said you were pro Second Amendment, but yet you introduced or voted for a gun control bill, which is an infringement. That means like those two things don't add up. And what you have to understand is politicians, the vast majority of them think that they're better than you, they're smarter than you, and that they deserve to be there and that you were there to worship them. That's how a lot of them ultimately come to feel about their positions. And so what Richardson was saying in this book was, hey, it's okay as a Christian to stand up and say, no, that's not right. No, you voted the wrong way. Right. And so you're confronting them or holding them accountable. Maybe accountability politics is maybe a better term for it. But he's just saying it's okay to stand up to these guys. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to get personal. You don't have to get vile. You just say, look, you said you were going to do this and you didn't do that. Okay. Now, maybe I'm going to have to run against you, or I'm going to find someone to run against you. And so you're confronting them going against what they told you they were going to do. That's all confrontational politics is. There's no calls for violence in this book. There's no calls for berating people and personal attacks, all that kind of stuff. He's just saying, as a Christian, it's okay to stand up to these guys, because they're going to come with a litany of excuses. Shane, you know this. You don't know what you're talking about, Greg. You're the only one talking about this. Let's talk about the governor. We have to get the governor on board in order to do that. Or I had to vote for this so I could vote. So they have a laundry list of excuses. And at the end of the day, you say, nope, sorry, I'm not buying it. That's just an excuse. Okay, that's the confrontation side. The access side is what most people are comfortable with because it's a lot less. Okay, when you're doing confrontational politics, you are the nail. You're the one constantly sitting up saying, no, this is not right. When you're an access-based person, you're doing it for power. Okay. Yeah. Shane, I think we may have talked about this on the phone the other day. It's weird to a lot of people. I'll go talk to some of even my brothers who aren't heavily involved in politics. I'm like, oh yeah, I was talking to the attorney general. I was talking to Senator so and so, and you see this look on their face, like, wait, what? You were talking to the attorney, and you don't realize that that's not normal. That's really awkward. But to me, I could care less. Like, they're just people. They're just people, and I respect the position. And so rather than me getting all giddy and, oh yeah, I was talking to the attorney general, by golly, but that's how a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Okay? When they get close to that power, they're like, man, this feels good. Hey, I got the attorney general's cell phone number. I got the speaker of the house's cell phone number. I'm gonna go take a picture with the speaker of the house and show everybody how cool I am. And then you sell out for access, because here's the thing, Shane, and here's the danger. And I keep trying to tell people this is the danger of access politics. When that politician has let you in close, hey, when you've become good friends with them, when you're going out on fishing trips with them or whatever, guess what? What are the odds that you are now going to confront them when they've gone off the right path?
That's right.
Okay. When they make a bad vote, a really bad vote, are you going to turn on them or are you not? Are you going to hold them accountable? I'm not saying you can't be their friend, but are you going to hold them accountable or are you not? And most people, okay, this isn't necessarily unique to the two girls up north that decided to launch these attacks. They're not willing to do that because they don't want to lose access to that power. They feel special. They feel honored. And these
Yeah.
politicians know that. They know that they can use your desire to be close to them to silence you. See, most activists like myself will get bought off. I've watched it in other states. They'll sell out for, you know, a phone number. They'll sell out for a parking spot. They'll sell out for a meal with a politician. Uh, when they start taking you on personal trips on their ranch and stuff, that like it's unlike anything I've ever seen before in access politics.
You know,
and
it
so
was
that's the danger.
it's interesting you bring that up because before I got involved in all of this, we have a company, we DJ weddings and events, and that we got into the Chamber of Commerce, and at the time the guy that was the president of the Chamber of Commerce was also our mayor here in Twin Falls. Imagine that conflict. But
Yeah.
we became friendly because we were kind of the cool DJs, and we would show up. We'd bring our equipment out for free to the Chamber of Commerce events so that we could show off what we did and use the speaker system, and it was good. It was good for us, and became friends. And well, then COVID hit, and our he was now a city council member. Our Twin Falls is kind of a mess down here in the Magic Valley. We don't have a strong mayor, so the mayor is just appointed by the city council. They will appoint from themselves a mayor. We have a city manager that really runs everything, and so he was a city councilman at the time. They had decided that it was somebody else's turn to be mayor, and but he was pushing for mask mandates down here. And pushing hard. And he not only was he pushing for mask mandates as the city councilman, but he was also, as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, calling the police on businesses that were staying open. And that's when I first was kind of getting involved with all of the politics. It was during COVID is really what kind of sparked me into it. And I had a decision to make. Turning on him wasn't just bad for access. That was bad for my business. Because we were getting all of the city events. The city was using us for their sound system for when they were doing all of their big citywide meetings, all of those things. And so by doing that, I knew what that meant to me. But that thing inside that says, I just can't watch this happen, prompted me to still go forward and march forward and say, no, what he's doing is wrong. This is disgusting. You can't do this. And it cost me. More than access, it cost me a lot in my business line. But these two. But so anyway, there is a lot there, that a lot of pressure to toe the line with whatever that individual wants you to do, whether it's in business or just to keep your access to where you can continue to say, hey, looky here, look who I'm hanging out with.
Yeah, and that goes. Understand this. I'm at the point now where anyone who gets involved in politics, I assume that 99.9% are going to go the access route because it's much more comfortable. Yeah. It's a lot less, frustrating for your life. And so that includes activists, and it includes lawmakers, the politicians, whoever. I've seen it in the state capitol. You get in there with good intentions. Okay? People who I assume are good human beings, and they get in there and they have a choice. You either do what leadership tells you to do, or you're not going to get your bills heard. You're not going to get a chairmanship or a vice chairmanship. They have all sorts of ways, the leadership does, to squash you and keep you down if you're someone who says, well, I'm going to do the right thing no matter what. Okay, no matter what that costs me. And the people who go in there and hold the line like that are very few. And the longer you're in, the higher the probability is that you're eventually going to go, you know what? Screw it. This isn't worth being the nail. I'm gonna be part of the hammer. And so they sell out for, again, access. They want access to that power. And again, my point is, though, and I want to be careful, this could happen to anyone. If you are not right with God, in my opinion, this will happen to you because, in my opinion, Satan uses power, money, prestige, sex, drugs, all the corruption that is happening in DC. I can promise you, it is all happening in the Idaho Capitol. It is no different. It is no different. It's just politics. That's the way it's always been. And the people willing to stand up and do the right thing are few and far in between, very few and far in between. And so it's such a danger to get involved in this game if you're not right with God, and if you don't understand the game. They do. Okay, all these politicians that have been in there a really long time, they know how to work the game, they know how to game the system, and they'll come for you. Look, as the guy who goes down and lobbies for gun rights, guess what? Would it be a lot easier for me to sell out? Sure. In fact, they tried to do this in 2016. I don't know how many gun owners know this or Idahoans know this. So we started the push for constitutional carry in 2012. That was the baby that we picked up and ran with ISA. And we spent years going after constitutional carry. Well, in 2016, it passed. What a lot of people don't remember is before the final bill passed, there was a bill, I want to say a week or two right before that the NRA went behind closed doors, okay, with leadership in the Capitol, and this is what they were going to do. So at the time, Idaho had constitutional carry outside city limits. What we were really trying to do was say, bring it inside city limits. This is stupid. These boundaries don't mean anything. It's confusing, and we're freaking Idaho. Okay, everybody in that building promised to be pro Second Amendment. So NRA goes in behind closed doors, and here's what they were going to do. They were actually going to remove constitutional carry from outside city limits. So everybody who was an Idahoan 21 and older would have had constitutional carry throughout the state. However, all other Americans who had it at the time outside of city limits, the NRA and the establishment GOP in the Capitol wanted to remove it. Okay, so this is 2 weeks before the session ends. We're at the end. This is what I've been fighting for 4 freaking years at that time. It would have been very easy for me to go, yeah, okay, screw it. Let's do it, right? To compromise, to sell out, to get something I wanted, because it would have been good for me. I was 21. I was an Idahoan.
Sure.
And I said, hell no. You know what we did? We went down to the Capitol outside the Senate chambers and we protested. We held up signs saying Senate bill, shoot, I don't even remember what it was right now, 1389 or something like that, has gun control. You are literally implementing gun control in Idaho. We blocked it. The NRA lobbyist calls me up later on, and we were just going at it on the phone because he was all pissed off. They came back the next day, left it at, okay, inside city limits, Idahoans 21 and older. Okay. So I didn't get everything we wanted, but we didn't allow them to get gun control in exchange for my silence. I wasn't going to do it. And then we spent 2 years with Senator Christy Zito fighting to now where we have full constitutional carry in Idaho. Okay. Very easy for me to just not have to do that. to just be super kind and loving to everyone and not worry about being backstabbed and gun owners getting screwed over. I could go that route. I refuse to do it.
See, we have that problem in Idaho going on right now. We have, and access politics, as described, isn't just folks like you and I and influencers and podcasters and people like that. It's happening within the legislators themselves right now.
Correct.
And so we're seeing a lot of that going on with the so-called Gang of Eight, which are wonderful, wonderful legislators, but they're being denied access because they're not willing to compromise their principles. They'll compromise on what should we spend $500 or $600 on 1,000 rolls of toilet paper, but they won't compromise on principles. And this is causing a big rift. And all of a sudden now we're seeing folks like you and I and having to make that decision. Well, okay, so if we side with the godly side over here is what I'm seeing. I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm seeing the godly side over here. If we side with them and say, hey, hold on a minute. We fought hard to get these folks in there. They are representing us. They're doing a great job. Well, now we're being threatened to lose access to be able to visit with or interview some of the other legislators. I'm seeing that over here. In fact, one of the ones that you got into it threatened me with that they would see to it that, by the way, because you're choosing the side that you're on, you are alienating yourself from all the rest of the legislators. And okay, so 8 of them will talk to me, the rest of them won't because I'm going to stand on principles. Fine. But this has got you kind of in a little bit of hot water. And this is sad because you are one of the strongest conservative voices in Idaho, and you've rose up to that very quickly over the years, over the last 5 years, in the and now we have these two. Got to be careful how I choose my words here. I want to be godly with this, but we have these two gals that have decided that they want access. They like the fame, is what I'm seeing. They like they like to be able to tout. I'm rubbing shoulders with Mike Moyle. Here's a picture of me fishing with them. Here's a picture of me out here doing this, and so they love the access that they're getting. But now, because Mike doesn't necessarily have the best IFF score and the best history on his voting, and folks like us speak out against it, now they're doing what they just did to you, and they're trying to destroy the reputation of people who are truly in the fight and having the best results in the state. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you just recently came out with this article over here on Freedom Bros podcast page that says when activist politics turns vile to personal attacks, and you were personally attacked. Talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, and I've been called way worse. I think Lauren, you're talking about Lauren Walker and Brandy Paradee, and I think Lauren called me a has-been and ineffective and all sorts of stuff. And I just laughed because, trust me, I've been. Greg Graff has said way worse things about me than Lauren has, but here's the thing: I expect it from Greg Graff, right? He is a liberal rhino to the core. Brandy Paradee and Lauren Walker at least pretend to be conservatives. I kind of question that now because now they're just unleashing on anyone at all. Like, it doesn't even matter. I mean, look, we are where we are right now. We have this massive block of conservatives in the Capitol because of confrontational politics. And if you think otherwise, then you're freaking kidding yourself, because it is the IFF, the IFA, the ISAA, Stop Idaho, all these groups going out and holding these rhinos accountable that has ultimately caused a lot of them to lose their jobs. So Heather Scott and Cornell Racer and Christy Zitto and all these guys are in there because Idahoans started following the groups and supporting the groups that were getting in the trenches and sorry, but kicking the shit out of the establishment. Okay, so that's where we are now. Again, you have to. It doesn't matter who it is. Look, I am good friends with Senator Zitto, but she'll be the first to tell you that if she turned, I'd still love her as a human being, sure, but I'm going to call her out for it. And so that's where these two that, Brandy and Lauren, they love their access to power. And so they'll just go out and attack, even if someone has a legitimate criticism. And so where this started from was in this latest attack on me was because my friend Dustin Hurst decided to write an article on Freedom Bros. And he said that Heather Scott is untouchable in her district. He was very complimentary of the fact that her people love her and she's going to be reelected. Basically, don't waste your time trying to take her out. It's not going to happen. And in that article, he said, but look, and that's despite this flag debacle. Okay, we all know this whole flag issue about the LGBT flag at Boise and what flags could be flown and not flown. And it turned into a giant national nightmare that Lauren McLean picked up and ran with and got a lot of good publicity from. And so Dustin's like, look, despite that debacle there, Heather Scott's untouchable. And so from that, Lauren and Paradee and Brandy just decided, you know what, we should just attack Greg now because it was on the Freedom Bros thing. And Dustin wasn't even attacking Heather. Look, Dustin and Heather have kind of gone back and forth, and I think Heather blocked him and all this other stuff has happened. But setting all that aside, that's what access does to you, is you don't care about holding your own people accountable anymore. You just go on the offensive and attack whoever. And so then they attacked the ISAA and they attacked Idaho Dispatch and they attacked me personally. And then it turned personal. Look, if you have disagreements with ISA and our strategy and tactics, fine, I don't care. But then you just start attacking people personally. They start calling people. I mean, you should see the names. I don't even want to repeat some of the names and stuff that they call people on X. Like, it's disgusting, unprofessional behavior that I'm surprised Mike Moyle wants anything to do with it, because of how vile and gross it is. Calling everybody who lobbies is a whore. Guess what? The Idaho definition of a lobbyist covers almost everyone that is involved in politics in any way, shape, or form. So, if Shane, if you want to throw that up on the screen here, just so we can clear this up for all the people I know on X that are going to watch this later on. This is by Idaho Code. Okay, the Idaho Code defines anyone as a lobbyist who anyone attempting through contacts with or causing others to make contact with members of the legislature or legislative committees or an executive official to influence the approval, modification, or rejection of any legislation by the legislature of the state of Idaho or any committee thereof, or by the governor, or to develop or maintain relationships with, promote goodwill with, or entertain members of the legislature or executive officials. Again, that covers almost all of us, and it certainly covers Lauren and Brandy. They are lobbyists, okay, by Idaho's own definition and code. Now, there is a separation. When you are a paid lobbyist, then you have to register as a lobbyist in Idaho. I don't get paid as a lobbyist. Technically, I don't think I have to register as a lobbyist because I don't get paid as a lobbyist. But here's the funny thing, Shane. I registered as a lobbyist in Idaho, and I could care less. Like, it doesn't bother me. Whatever. You can call me a whore lobbyist, Lauren or Brandy or whoever. Whatever. I'm down pounding the work for gun owners and fighting for gun owners. You can call me whatever you want. But here's the funny thing. So I was told to register as a lobbyist a long time ago because they said, look, you're in politics. Somebody's going to file a complaint against you, and then you're going to end up tied up in this legal battle. It's easier just to register and not worry. It's freaking $10. Like, okay, whatever. And so I've done it ever since then, even though I technically don't think I have to. But the reason that they brought that up is, look at Brandy Paradee. She filed a complaint with the SOS office, the Secretary of State's office, against Maria Nate because of some random tweet that Maria Nate did that was her own personal tweet. And she filed a complaint against her. Like, that's how vicious these guys are. They just file complaints with the government against you because they have nothing better to do. So, yeah, wow. That's why I'll register as a lobbyist, because I know that people like Greg Graff or Brandy Paradee or Lauren Walker, if I don't, are going to file complaints against me, illegitimate claims that I then have to go and defend. So they launched attack. And so rather than getting into personal attacks against them, I just said, look, this is what access politics is. And that's what I wrote my article on was, this is what these people will do to you if you don't go along with their game. And that's why people don't want to get involved in politics, is because of people like them and these vicious personal attacks that they'll do against you.
Yeah, and I was just pulling up that post, and I mean this is exactly it. This is that Lauren posting up there. Lobbyists are, and it's a vote that she has going right now. Whores or fantastic, more please. And then a little bit below that, you see somebody else popping in there, and they post the page. I was trying to pull it up, but they post the page from the Idaho Sunshine where they go in and they show the lobbyists, and they picked on Maria Nate, which, if you don't know, Ron Nate is the director for the Idaho Freedom Foundation now. And Maria, again, had to register as a lobbyist because she does get involved and financially and because of things like this. And this is the kind of nasty. The problem is that we did a lot of work as Idahoans, not you and I. I mean, we did our part in it, but as Idahoans, we did a lot to elect some really good conservatives. Our eyes were open during COVID. And we did a lot to elect some very good conservative representatives who are actually representing the people now. And this is just blowing that group apart. And what we're going to see, we're coming into another election cycle. And what we're going to see is this is going to open the door for just more of the old same garbage that we're sick and tired of, that we've been fighting so hard to make these strides in Idaho. And they're just imploding themselves. And it's when you have people who they're self-proclaimed. I'm going to bring this up because I think it's really important to show this. When they're self-proclaimed snarky vets wrecking ball. That's
do that.
that is exactly what she is, and that's exactly what's happening. They're taking a wrecking ball to the conservative movement in Idaho, and it's not helping anything by attacking people like you, that have worked so hard for what you've done for 2A rights and for other really good bills that we've had passed. When they're attacking Idaho Freedom Foundation, who is the most accurate group in Idaho at scoring our representatives, who are shining sunshine on those representatives who are part of the establishment, and also putting sunshine on those who are voting well. And Heather Scott, to her credit, has a great IFF score. She votes very well. But behind the scenes, she's a part of this group over here that's attacking our Magic Valley legislators, our Magic Valley miracle that we just had. And now, because they're having a little bit of a riff, a little bit of a disagreement, instead of helping to advance the conservative movement, we're just going to do everything that we can to take a wrecking ball to it. This is not helping anything. How do we calm this down? I don't know if there's any way of calming it down, if there's anything that can be done to repair it, but it's getting ugly.
Yeah, it's really it's really sad to see. Look, I started before there was Heather Scott or Ron Nate or any of those guys in the Capitol. And before this whole, war started, I guess, I don't know, when was that, like February, March or whatever of last year. I was excited. I was thinking, okay, we're making some groundwork here. We're making some moves.
Oh boy, yeah.
And then all of a sudden this faction happened and this divide happened. And you could not, the liberal establishment has been trying to fight back for a really long time. Greg Graff, and if you don't know who that is, don't even waste your time. Like, a completely useless tool. But like, he actually praised Lauren and Brandy's attacks on the Idaho Freedom Foundation. Look, I'm good friends with Wayne Hoffman. I'm good friends with Ron. I like a lot of the people at IFF. I've known them, Fred Birnbaum, all these guys, known them for real. There is nothing in the country that is even close to the Idaho Freedom Foundation, and the way that they take bills and say, look, this is this is going to expand government, this is going to not expand government, or it's going to shrink government, right? And that's how they rate all this legislation that they do. There is nothing like it. There is nothing like it. And those two spent this whole last session while all of us sat back and said, okay, maybe this war will blow over. And Lauren and Brandy just sat there and attacked over and over and over again, and attacked the IFF because they don't like Maria Nate. It's disgusting. Like, what are we doing? When Greg Graff is singing your praises, you should seriously look in the mirror and go, okay, maybe we ought to shut up now, because, and I'm not saying you can't be critical, and that's the thing, that's the difference between me and them. I'm not saying you can't be critical of some of their ratings. I've had disagreements with some of the ratings at times. That's fine. That's okay to call out when you think that
Sure.
they're off on rating. It wasn't that. It was, why are you giving money to this organization? I saw post after post of Lauren saying, why are you giving money to the IFF? Because they don't like Maria Nate. Not because they could actually get in and criticize the real work. It's because they just don't like the organization. And I'm telling you guys right now, anybody watching this, there is nothing like the IFF. Again, they're not perfect, but no other state has this kind of a vetting system to figure out who is a rhino and who is not. Okay, Kelly Anthony and Mike Moyle, and look, I get along with Mike Moyle. I've never had any personal spats with him or whatever. He probably doesn't like me. That's fine. They get D's and F's by the IFF. The Democrats get D's and F's. Okay, mostly F's, if I had to guess. So you have to ask yourself, but Heather Scott gets A's, with the IFF, and so do most of her, people that she's associated with. So you have to ask, why are they calling Kelly Anthony based? And again, I'm not personally attacking Kelly Anthony, but he gets a D or an F with IFF. So he expands government most of the time. They call him based. They're out fishing with Mike Moyle, who gets D's and F's from the IFF. Which, by the way, is kind of weird, because I think Lauren bragged about being part of some new national group called Rhino Hunting Project. And I'm like, wait a minute here. They recruited you to be the person to hunt rhinos in Idaho, and you are worshiping the establishment leadership who has D's and F's, which by definition means that they're not really voting as Republicans. I'm totally confused here. Like, how does that happen? So anyway, so they just went on the attack against me because of what Dustin said. And now I said, okay. And the funny thing is, Shane, behind the scenes, I was trying everything I could to keep the peace. Yeah. To keep everybody on Maria Nate's side calm. Hey, stay out of it. We got to stay focused on guns and all these liberty things. Let's stay focused. Right. And then when they went after the ISA and the Idaho Dispatch, I just said, you know what? I'll explain to people what's really happening here, and that's access politics.
You know, you talk about Kelly Anthon. So when I was new to this and just kind of first getting started, it was COVID that just got me in the middle of all of it. Kelly Anthon and I actually had a really good conversation because there was basically a law that could have the effects of like a Marcy's Law, red flag law kind of thing. And there was some wording in there that was just very dangerous. And so he and I had an exchange. I shot because he has been strong for 2A rights in the past. And so I had a conversation with him on Facebook back and forth and said, hey, this is dangerous. And he disagreed. And then through that conversation, he said, you know what? I can actually kind of see your side of this. And so let me dig into this. And at the end of the day, they fixed it. So then I was up at the State House and he saw me stand up in the balcony. And you talk about access politics. I think these guys understand how this works. And so from the floor, he said, hey, while we're getting ready to go to recess here, I want to just recognize my friend Shane Class up there. And looking back, you wonder if that was just genuine or if that was just part of playing the game of access politics and trying to play to my pride in hopes that would keep me from ever seeing all of the garbage that he's becoming. And I hate to say this, but as a politician, not as a person, I think he's okay as a person. But as a politician, he's buddying up with Scott Bedke and all of them now, and it's sad to see. But he's just become just a regular old politician, just another part of the establishment. And I've called him out. I haven't had any qualms about that. Same thing. You can sit there and pander all you want and make me feel all important, but it's not. At the end of the day, I'm here for the people and for what's happening. But I wanted to highlight this too. You were talking about Maria Nate and their attack. So Lauren, when I first took over True Idaho News, because Daniel Babinski and I were siding with the Gang of Eight and supporting them, she wanted to cancel her subscription to True Idaho News and her $10 a month or whatever it was she was paying. And something happened in there, and she could just go on the website and do it herself. But she apparently sent Daniel a message and then shot one to me, and I turned around and sent it back over to him and said, hey, I haven't figured out how this all works yet. Can you take care of this? And something happened, and she got ticked because it didn't happen immediately, and immediately shot this over. I just brought it up while we were talking, and says, so let me help you out. Next time I'm charged, I'm going to spotlight your handle for the Gang of Nate propagandists that you are. So I guess they're calling them the Gang of Nate because of Maria Nate and Ron Nate. And I'll tell everyone on here to not even dream of donating or watching, and then I'll cancel my debit card. And then I explained to her that I'm not going to be, that doesn't scare me, whatever. And then, but this is, again, comes back to the kind of things, you're loyal to who you've been told to be loyal to. The legislators you feature are puppeted by DC lobbyists and can't even get simple memorials through the State House. You're a propaganda arm for their media garbage and justifications for no impact, plus you're isolating yourself from every other representative by entertaining them. So this, again, I wouldn't have shown this except for what's happening right now. They've got a whole lot of followers, and this is exactly that access politics that you're talking about. Because if she thinks those types of threats are going to affect me, it's obviously because they would have affected her.
Yeah.
And that fear of losing access and so that's the mentality is truly there on a psychological level. You can see it clear as day. that if she thinks that that's going to scare me away and make me just pander to her because I'm afraid of losing access, then obviously she thinks that is a viable threat.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's kind of what's happened here.
Yeah, and that's where, that is all. I hadn't seen that before. So that is all access based mentality. And here's the thing, Shane. I'm not. Look, I'm one man. Okay, I made the mistake when I first started of going down to the Capitol and trying to hand them a piece of paper that explained constitutional carry and why it was important, yada yada yada. And I quickly realized that me going down there by myself and trying to talk to lawmakers was a giant waste of time because they don't care. They think they're better than you. They won the seat, and so therefore you just need to sit down and shut up. Excuse me, and let them do their job. I realized it's the people. Okay, the people make the difference. It's really easy to get on social media and just scream and yell at people and attack people. It's another thing to start an organization, to build it up from the ground up, and then to try and go out and mobilize gun owners across the state or whatever it is to go out and make a difference. Okay, and that's the path that I chose. Was I'm going to set aside my own personal ambitions and just go out and try to lead people into the trenches so we can go and fight for the Second Amendment in Idaho. And that's what I did. That's the path I chose, rather than whining and complaining on social media all the time and just attacking random people, especially other leaders in the conservative movement who have been doing this for a really long time to try and make a difference. So at the end of the day, for the Idaho Dispatch, for instance, I'll interview whoever. I don't care. It's their choice in the end. If it costs me because I interview, Senator Zeiderveld, and oh well, you interviewed her, so now I'm not. I'm like, grow up.
Yeah.
What are you doing? It's so childish, all this crap. Conservatives have got to get focused back on fighting the establishment, fighting for what's right, um, fighting and holding our own accountable. At the end of the day, we have to hold each other accountable. And if we're not willing to do that, then we're part of the problem.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I don't know what the answer is to cleaning this up. Yeah, but it does come back to, I think, where this started the show today, was your comment about you have to have faith. You have to be a person of faith. It takes a strong relationship with God in order to withstand Satan's favorite tool, and that's pride. Mm-hmm. And that's what most of this snarkiness, most of this battling back and forth, this bickering, it's coming from. On this side, we have people that have let pride creep into their life. And on the other side, you have a group that are truly humble. They have you can tell their walk with Christ. They're not in this. They're not out there talking about these two. They're not talking about all the attacks that are coming behind them behind the scenes. They're not making this public. And so you can just kind of watch and you can see which side is doing this and which side isn't. And you tried staying out of it. I tried staying out of it, but I've always kind of been the guy that if somebody's bullying someone else, I'm going to step in and say, well, hey, hold on a minute here. I've got their back. I'm not going to let that happen. I felt like I have a responsibility now to get in and defend these people because they're too Christ-like to defend themselves. And I think it's really sad to see this happening. We need godly legislators. We need people who act more humble. We need people with that kind of humility in our state house. And those are the ones that are under attack. So it's clear where this is coming from. Satan has figured out, he's been at this a long time. And he knows where the Achilles heel is, and he's going to attack everybody on their Achilles heel. And right now, pride seems to be the biggest Achilles heel.
Yeah, that's human nature since the beginning of time, right? Is pride. Yeah, look at Christy Zitto, Glennie de Zeiderveld, Faye Thompson, Marie Nade, these guys,
Marmon.
especially the lawmakers, like you said, they focused on the fight inside the Capitol. That's where they were fighting. And you may not like their style of politics. That's fine. That's okay to have that debate and everything. But Lauren and Brandy calling them menopausal moms and menopausal grandmas and like mocking them, whether jokingly or not, I don't care. That's disgusting. Like, who does that? What Christian woman says stupid crap like that other than to just be vile and gross and like you said, out of a sense of just attacking because Satan wants to divide us, and that's what they're trying to do, is divide us. Like, I don't understand this mentality, and they're doing it and saying they're trying to defend their friends or whatever. Like, that's fine, you can defend your friends, but it's just, man, I don't know. Shane, you asked how do we fix it? Look, I'm the type of person, I'll work with anybody to pass gun rights. If you're gonna do it the right way, then fine. Yeah. Like, if Representative Scott came to me and said, Greg, we want to pass this gun bill, can you help mobilize gun owners? Absolutely. Okay. I know she doesn't like my style of politics, and that's fine. Ironically, a lot of people always come to me when they want the confrontation because they realize that the access way doesn't usually get them what they want. But anyway, setting that aside, I just don't know. I know I've talked to Maria, I've talked to Dustin. They're all willing to just go, okay, we'll set it all aside. Let's just focus on doing the right thing. It's not that way coming from the other side, though, that I can tell. Okay, that's my personal opinion, I guess, is that the other side doesn't. They want capitulation. They want your silence. They want you to shut up. And they want you to be part of the access-based system. And I'm just not willing to do that. So I don't know if we just need a reset within the movement, if we're basically starting over because the divide is too big. I don't know. But I do know that I am always willing to work with anyone to pass good legislation, no matter who it is. I don't care.
Yeah, of course. Again, it comes back to it. What it is that some personalities there's been some conflict in personalities. I think there's been some conflict in ideology. Some of them saying, well, if you're going to get a chair seat, then you got to get on board with Mike Moyle and his agenda. And some of them the Gang of Ada says, well, I don't care about getting on somebody's agenda. I care about policies. And we have this paradigm that says this is we want smaller government, we want less spending, we want more freedom, and those are things that we're just not going to compromise on. And well, you got to compromise if you're going to get anything done over here. And they've said, no, you don't. We have faith in the people of Idaho, and we have faith in God that we can get things done without compromising on our principles. And so then pride got involved, and now we have this big mess. But here's the worst part of it, is that who's losing? They think they're winning. Well, yeah, they're winning in power. They're winning in pride. They're winning in being able to stay in politics. But at the end of the day, who's losing? We the people are, especially down here in the Magic Valley when we had our Magic Valley miracle, because a good percentage of those legislators came from here. And so now what they've said is, well, you're not on board with us. We'll make sure that any bill that you try to get passed won't have your name on it. If a bill has your name on it, it's not going anywhere. And that is literally what has happened. That's not a figurative statement. That is literally what's happening. And so we, the people of the Magic Valley, who have sent people there as representatives to represent us, are essentially being said, you're not, if you guys want anything done up here, you got to send some different people who are willing to compromise their principles up here to the State House, because you've sent us people who are too principled. That's essentially what they've said. And so we're the ones that are losing. We don't have a voice anymore because those people aren't allowing any bills to get passed that we want them to pass, that we want them to present. And so at the end of the day, it's the people who are losing, and that makes me mad. That's where my emotions get in the middle of it. That's where I get angry, because they are silencing us in the Magic Valley, not just the representatives, us. And that's terrible for Idaho. And that's what, at the end of the day, that's what their little games that they're playing. That's what's happening. And so now there's been some bills that have made its way through, but they've said, well, take their name off of it. Take their name off of it and we'll put it through. Why are they doing that? So that at this next election cycle, they can say, well, they're not getting anything done. They're not doing anything over here. And it's a disgusting game. It's vile. It's evil. And it's something that I just can't get behind.
Yeah, that's politics. That's how the game is always played. The difference was that we were growing this block of quote unquote liberty lawmakers. It was going to be a massive, huge block working together, and the establishment was on the run. They were on the run. They were just losing election. It didn't matter how much money they poured into these races. The people, the voters, had woken up and gone, "Oh, okay," But you got to be very careful because we've got them on the run, or we had them on the run, I should say, and now there's people in our movement that are like, "Hey, take your foot off the gas." Now's the time to incrementally get everything that we want. I get politics. You're never going to get everything you want all the time. I understand that. But in a state like Idaho, with an 80% Republican supermajority, there is no reason, if these guys were who they say they are on the campaign trail, that we shouldn't be ramming the most hardcore conservative bills down their throats of the Democrats and the leftist Republicans. Because I can tell you right now, if Idaho ever turns blue and in its actual, there's lots of Democrats in the Capitol. They just have an R next to their name. But if they get to a point where they can actually just put the D next to their name, they won't hesitate. Okay, look at Washington State, destroyed in 10 years. The Democrats, when they get power, they go for the jugular. And the Republicans in Idaho are like, hey, we got power now. We should probably hold back, start compromising, start moving the ball down the field 1 yard at a time. I'm like, the hell with that. What are you talking about? We should be a professional football team playing high school kids, right? They should be 30 and 40-yard passes every single time. Like, stop with this crap. And what they'll tell you is, here's the funny thing, Shane, and I know we're up on an hour here, but the funny thing is they'll tell you, well, Greg, but that a lot of those guys aren't really Republicans. I'm like, exactly. Right. Then call them for it. Call them out for who they really are. And if you're not willing to do that, you are part of the problem. You are the reason that Idaho will turn into Colorado, not because of people like me that are trying to keep the Overton window as far to the right as possible. It's people like you that decided you wanted to be part of the game and part of the system.
Yeah. That's, I keep watching. I am the fan on the sideline, and I'm standing here, and I'm watching, and I'm saying, oh man, Florida did great on that. Why didn't Idaho get to that first? Oh, Oklahoma, man, good job. Why didn't Idaho get to that first? Why are we playing catch up over here? Why are we not the leaders in the nation? We should be right now. We did exactly as voters what we were supposed to do. We put the right people up in there. We put a high enough percentage of them in there that we should be leading the game. And yet we're kind of on the sidelines, just watching all the fun stuff happen somewhere else. And unfortunately, in this game, the fun stuff is our lives that are affected by it, and our pocketbooks and our freedom and all of the values that we hold dear. And they got some good stuff done. I don't want to take away from that. They did get a lot of great things happen this last round, but we could be doing better, and we should be doing better. And it's this stupid stuff going on, access politics, that's killing it. Greg, we are coming up on an hour. I want to give you the last word here. Anything else that you think people need to know that you want to say, and then finish it up by how can people come find you? I don't mind. Advertise the Dispatch, advertise Freedom Bros, advertise all of that, because you're doing a great job in Idaho, and I'm not here to toot my horn. I'm here to toot yours. So last words.
Yeah. I don't need none of that anyway, but I would say this. I would say read the article I wrote to understand the access-based system, okay? And the difference between that, and I would say if you can buy this book, it's not very expensive on Amazon, and it's not very long. It's 113 pages. Buy this book so you understand the whole system and the game that is being played. And this is not unique to Idaho. It's not unique to the legislature. It's all of it. It's politics in general. There's only two paths, and that's sucking up and being part of the system, or standing outside as a nail and standing up for the principles that you want, and not compromising on those principles. Okay, those are the two paths. That's it. And so I would say if you can afford to buy that book, you should buy that book. No, I don't have an affiliate link or nothing. It's just a book I read a long time ago that really kind of opened my eyes to reality and politics. So, look, if you support, what I've told people is get off your ass and support the things that will cause you to get off your butt and go do that. Okay. If it's guns, I'd love to have your support at the Idaho Second Amendment Lines, of course. If you want to stick it to the mainstream media, there's a number of outlets here in Idaho. I run the Idaho Dispatch, would love to have your support there. But whatever your issue is, go find groups that are helping fight for that issue. And if there's not one, if you want to go down the fun path of leading a political group, because it's super fun, right? No, that's not stressful at all. Then by all means, go start an organization, but donate your time, your money, your talents, and certainly your prayers to the groups and the people who are fighting for the causes that you believe in. And that's what I would leave it at, is say, get involved in whatever way, shape, or form will cause you to get off your butt and do something, because this fight doesn't end. It never ends. Death is the end of the fight for liberty. So anyway, I appreciate having me on, Shane.
Hey, thanks, Greg. Hey, I wanted to point out real quick, I just saw in the comments section, Senator Zeiderfeld did weigh in a little bit while we were talking. And she said, unfortunately, they are only getting one side of the story. Not once have they reached out to any of us personally to understand our side of the story. We're there to do a job and work on policy and budget, not get caught up in personalities and fear of getting reelected. So, that's the heart of the Gang of Eight all the way around. I've spoken with many of them, and that truly is our heart. But Greg, thank you for all that you do. And we need warriors like you that just stand on principle, that are bold, and that's how we fix Idaho. Is we've got to get everybody needs to be bold and get involved and dig in. And if you're on the sidelines, just watching and not getting involved, but you're upset with how things are being run, then Idaho needs you. Idaho needs you to get in the game, whether it be to run for an office or to help those people who are in office stay in office. They need boots on the ground. We're coming into an election cycle, knocking on doors. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of money that's going to be pouring in, and there's going to be a lot of slander. There's going to be a lot of just ugliness, I fear, and I don't want it, but I fear that's what's going to happen. But we need you to get involved. So reach out to Greg, reach out to me, reach out to, if you're in the Magic Valley, to the Magic Valley Liberty Alliance, reach out to your representatives. And if you're sick and tired of the games, reach out to your representatives and tell them to stop the games and put this bickering aside and just focus on politics. Get the job done. Quit all this stuff. Get the job done. That's what we need of you, reaching out to them, because your voice does matter when the emails start coming in and the phone calls start coming in and they start getting concerned about whether or not they're going to be able to stay in office. That's how your voice works. And that's what we need of you right now. So thanks, Greg. Thanks, everybody. Yeah. And we'll see you again next week.